Well, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, county leaders oppose ballot question D, 9 districts for Montgomery County. What's up with the Purple Line snafu? COVID's closing may prevent some Rosh Hashanah services, and do you really trust voting by mail? 1,600 uncollected ballots discovered today from the July primary in New Jersey. Oops. A couple of experts will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by the Dean of Democratic Politics, Sam Statland, and the Secretary of the Maryland Republican Central Committee, Mark Uncapher. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. In a show of political muscle this week, former County Executive Ike Leggett, former Congresswoman Connie Morella, and other dignitaries addressed the media regarding ballot questions B and D. Questions B would restrict the county from raising property taxes above the rate of inflation, and question D proposes to restructure the existing 9-member council districts by eliminating the 4 at-large seats, resulting in the creation of 9 distinct councilmanic districts. Joining us this evening is the chairperson of 9 districts for MoCo, Kim Persaud, to discuss the effort to change the composition of the county council. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Glad you can enlighten us on this important topic. And the question is, what's wrong with the current system? Why do we need to make a change?
The problem is that the current system, the at-large structure, has failed to properly represent all of Montgomery County fairly. So what we have in Montgomery County is all 4 at-large members who are supposed to represent the county as a whole, living in the down county region and leaving up county with just 1 representative. And so what we have is the at-large taken into consideration and advocating for their neighbors in the down county region, and leaving the up county without any at-large representation. And it shows, it's evident in how the money is spent in Montgomery County. The CIP, the transportation, housing, all of that is shown how, the down county has more representation than up county.
So Kim, this is a ballot initiative, so you had to go out and collect signatures in order to get certified for the ballot. Were the signatures that you were obtained evenly spread out throughout the county, or was this strictly just an up county versus down county issue?
No, it was spread out throughout the county. This was Bethesda, Silver Spring, Tacoma Park, Gaithersburg, Germantown, Damascus. Everybody participated. This was really a citizens referendum.
All right. Mark Uncapher, do you have any questions for Ms. Persaud?
I do, but I had really had a comment. And one of the things Ike Leggett said at this press conference that you referenced was that somehow individual district members were more parochial than the at-large member, and it seemed to be a sort of a disrespect to the majority of the existing council that represent individual districts as opposed to at-large. Have you run into this idea that somehow people who have a set constituency are somehow worse representatives than at-large representatives?
Can you repeat the question again?
The down county, well, we had this experience where the idea was that individual district representatives were somehow more parochial than the at-large council members. So do you have any reaction to that?
Well, that's completely incorrect. I don't have the stats, but if anybody's following the county council, the at-large tend to vote along the down county interest. And it's unanimous votes all the time. And so there's the at-large, instead of representing the up county, are lock and step with what's going on down county. So you have 7 representatives who live in the down county area, and our at-larges tend to vote with them.
Sam Statland, do you have a question?
Just one. Who is actually going to do the redistricting? Because if you think that the current council people in power are going to give up power, or the party in power is going to give up, I think that's a poor assumption. Give me a pencil and a little line, and I'll show you 9 gerrymandered districts that look worse than what we have.
You're absolutely right. But what we're trying to do here, I mean, we have no control over how the county council will draw up those lines. You're absolutely right. Our goal is to give people a voice in Montgomery County, give them a voice that they don't have right now. And right now we need 9 districts in order to have that. 9 equal districts. So that's our goal. That's the first fight.
Kim, I want to follow up on Sam's question. So is your organization either affiliated with either one of the 2 political parties, or are you bipartisan?
We are nonpartisan. We're not affiliated with the Republican Party or the Democratic Party.
And I might want to point out too, Kim, that you've gotten sort of support across the board. So while there is Republican support, also the public employee unions were very active in supporting this, as were people in the business community.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. When I set out to do this, we were $100 million in the hole, and our tax base is shrinking, and we have no jobs in Montgomery County. They're all going to Virginia and PG County now. So what I wanted to do, something different, was to reach across the aisle and work with Republicans, work with the unions, work with business leaders, because this is all the people that we're going to need in order to get ourselves out of here. And now we're in a pandemic. Things are 100 times worse. We don't know where this pandemic is going to lead us, and how I mean, they're projecting $1 billion in projected revenue losses. Okay.
Yeah, Kim, I'm afraid I'm going to have to cut you off there. We're running out of time for this segment. I promise to have you back on again before the election, so you can address this important topic. Obviously, it is a fundamental restructuring of the way the county is governed, and we think it's very exciting what you're doing. So thank you for being here. Appreciate your appearing today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that was a great topic that we talked about just then. Beloved by the urban elite, the Purple Line light rail project connecting Silver Spring and Bethesda suffered a blow this week, as Baltimore Circuit Court Judge Jeffrey Geller ordered that the state of Maryland had defaulted on its contract, and as a remedy would allow the contractors to abandon the partially finished project. Sam, you talked about this last week. Who's responsible for this debacle?
Well, in my opinion, Casey, the person most responsible are the people who negotiated the contract and the governor for approving it. For somebody to walk away from this project is so very, very costly and delays. And the losers are going to be, of course, all of us in Montgomery and Prince George's County. But if you could imagine a bond rating last week going to junk, they're going to go into default. So the contractors are going to lose a fortune. The state's going to lose a fortune. And we citizens will lose most of all.
Thank you. Mark, is Sam right on the mark there, or is there really a culprit that we can point a finger at?
Full disclosure, I'm on the board of directors of the authority that is building the Silver Line, which is the $7 billion Metro Rail project. And I have to tell you, as I've spent time on it the last couple of years, it's a real challenge to build these transportation projects, and it takes a unique set of skills, hands-on skills, working with the contractors. And it's interesting, sometimes you know, the he said, she said, and the back and forth, you see some of it in the press, but it actually becomes something of a soap opera. It's hard to know who's right in situations like this.
Well, is it just a matter of the state not paying the contractor, or there are fundamental structural issues related to the construction of the project?
Well, there's different, I mean, part of the, how shall I say, the game that contractors do play is to try and shift the blame away to the, sponsor of the project. And I will tell you from firsthand experience, frequently that's not really, that's correct. And you kind of end up either going to arbitration or litigation in order to establish what the right or wrong. So I will tell you, from experience, I'm not sure that I necessarily take what I read in the press as gospel in trying to sort out these kinds of problems.
So
The best thing to have
enlighten me, Sam, because I'm not sure. Who is the party? Is it the county or is it the state that is in charge of the construction project? Who's the party supervising this?
the state.
It is the state, yeah.
State contract. But I want to say again, to walk away from this project costs everybody too much to have it happen. And from what I've been told in the back room, they're still trying to negotiate and work out this contract, which I hope they do, because that's the most sensible thing and the most cost effective.
Well, the contractors certainly have a little bit of leverage on their side right now, based on Judge Geller's decision. When we come back from this short break, will Mark Elrich COVID-19 restrictions prevent some of the Orthodox synagogues from holding Rosh Hashanah services? Stay tuned. And welcome back. Dating back to the initial imposition of the stay-at-home orders and other restrictions designed to reduce the spread of coronavirus, religious leaders of all faith have protested the restrictions placed upon the right to assemble and freely exercise their religions. For the most part, however, in this area, religious organizations meekly accepted the restrictions until now. This Friday marks the Jewish New Year of Rosh Hashanah, and conservative and Orthodox synagogues say that Montgomery County's severe coronavirus measures hampers the ability for indoor prayer and violates their rights to religious freedom. Sam, there are broad religious considerations here, but they all start and stop at the overly restrictive coronavirus measures being imposed by the county executive.
Casey, I don't think it's over restrictive at all, and we've talked about this in the past. The most important thing we can do in the county is to keep people safe. And how do we keep people safe? By following the science on the COVID issue. I was raised, Casey, in the Orthodox community. And I will tell you that I have never, except for health reasons, missed a Rosh Hashanah or a Uncapher service. And I find it very comforting to be in the synagogue with friends and fellow congregants. And yes, I'm very, very upset not to be able to go into the synagogue, but it's more important for me, Casey, to keep people safe. So I'm going along with this. And I'd like to point out that many other religious communities, including the Catholic Church, also are going to do virtual rather than within the church for Christmas.
You know, Sam. But doesn't this come down to a personal considerations? I mean, in addition to the physical health that someone may suffer from the COVID virus, there's mental health and there's emotional health and spiritual life that has to be considered. And like you, I miss being able to go to my church and pray to my God. And I am very angry that my church, the Catholic Church, has not fought back, because I think its essential message should be that the congregants be allowed to meet and celebrate their faith as they see fit without government intrusion, as it says in the Constitution.
Casey, just this week, there was example after example on the press, on the media, where one event and one sick person spread this disease throughout the community. And that's my fear, that by having service, one person will come in and contaminate everyone else. That'll make it worse for the rest of us.
Let's put this in context, though, Sam. Is look at the hospitalization numbers in Montgomery County. They are a fraction of what folks were afraid of when we were, quote, bending the curve last some 6 months ago. So I think you got to put it in context. We've made a lot of progress with the disease, also in how we treat it. So this notion that if somehow you catch it is automatically a death sentence is really not appropriate. People can make their own informed decisions. People who aren't at risk can go to worship. In my experience, I was at Holy Redeemer last weekend. They're able to do the social distancing, and I think that basically we should trust people and institutions to make the appropriate measures to make it, make it relatively safe. It won't be foolproof. It won't be 100% safe, but it will be safe compared to sort of other diseases that we've faced.
Mark, the communities right now, and I'm hearing what you're saying, you can go to services if you want. It's just that audience is going to be limited by count to comply with the COVID restrictions. And it keeps us healthy and safe. And I am at risk. And I don't want to be more at risk.
And very appropriately, if you're at heightened risk, is you have the, churches have made the adaption, I should say, to allow for virtual participation. But that shouldn't foreclose the ability of other people who aren't subject to that to be able to go and worship in person.
Churches now have sign-up lists. And if you're not, first on the list, you get shut out. I think the restrictions are overly stringent in this regard. And I fault the county executive, and I fault the medical chief, Travis Gales, for this. As Mark pointed out, since July, we've pretty much maintained a steady hospitalization rate of around 63 people. That is incredible, and it's an incredibly low number, and it is pretty much flat. But every time you have this Chicken Little county executive, the sky is falling if one person gets coronavirus. It is around us. It's not going away, people.
Casey, I hear what you're saying, and you've said it many, many times, but still the bottom line is that we in Montgomery County don't want to see that curve jumped up again.
Oh, it's such nonsense, Sam. It is such Chicken Little thinking. It is small-minded thinking that is resulting in this. The whole state is in phase 3, and Montgomery County and Prince George's County are in phase 2 because we have poor leadership at the top.
I want to point out that all the major jurisdictions are not in 3, they're in 2. The governor showed great flexibility in being able to give the jurisdictions individual choice.
Yeah, well, we get the, as Pogo used to say, we get the government we deserve. So we have to wrap it up here and go on to our next topic. So mail-in voting has been the rage in all of the headlines for the last 6 months. And 2 weeks ago, we had the chairperson of the Montgomery County Board of Elections, Jim Shalek, appearing on this program to tout the safety and security of voting by mail. And just when, I'm skeptical about all this stuff, but just when I think maybe it can be done safely, then there's a news story. Like the one I saw yesterday, that 1,600 ballots were discovered uncounted in one county in New Jersey, in a secure area, of course, of the Board of Elections. This kind of stuff is going to be rampant throughout the election cycle, and it's very dangerous. Mark, what's your opinion on that?
I'm very concerned. I noticed the Washington Post last month did an article of the percentage of ballots that were disqualified. Now, that's not even counting the ones that we don't know about that suddenly surface. I don't think there's much question but that mail-in ballots are that much more risky compared with in-person ballots. And I'll say for myself, I intend to take advantage of early voting and vote in person, because that way I have the security of knowing that my vote actually counts.
Sam.
Guys, two separate issues. Guys, there's two separate issues here. First of all, there's the mail-in ballot issue. And I feel that that's going to work out fine. But secondly, and I can give you personal experience for this, the issue is what heck goes on with an individual Board of Elections. Do things get misplaced? Yes, they do. In fact, I can remember where the Montgomery County Board of Elections, under my chairmanship, I may add, didn't send out the computer cards to start up the polling precincts. So guess what happened? We got everyone scrambling. We delivered the cards and delayed elections for an hour to give people the right to vote. Stuff like this is, I don't think, avoidable, because you do have human error and you have it in each precinct. But mail-in voting and what goes on within the precincts are two different things, or within the Board of Elections. I think we're going to have a great election. Vote Democratic.
Yeah, and if you don't vote Democratic, we'll find an extra 1,000 somewhere in the back room to make sure you do. Isn't that right, Sam? All right, we'll go on to our last topic. It's the political weather vane. And this week we're going to start with Sam. Sam, what's your political weather vane telling you this week?
Well, my weather vane gives a lot of credit to Mark Elrich and Dr. Gales for taking a firm position to keep us all very, very healthy and put up with the complaints that they're getting about religious services. It's heads up for Mark and heads up for Dr. Gales. I think they're doing a great job and we're safe.
All right, Mark Uncapher, where's the weather blowing for you this week? My weather vane observation for this week is that there seems to be some confusion on the part of the Democratic ticket as to who's going to be president. You had Kamala Harris talking about the Harris administration, and then Vice President Biden had some of the same confusion. And I think this really goes to an issue that a lot of people seem to have of a little worried as to who actually is going to be president, whether or not Joe Biden is going to be an active president or not, or he's going to end up retreating to his basement, that is, were he to be elected.
Thank you, Mark. Now, my political weather vane is still the same as last week. And it comes on the heels of the fact that there was a historic peace accord signed this week at the White House between the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Israel. This is the second announced peace accord in the last 2 weeks. And I will have to say that I think President Trump gets a lot of credit for his foreign policy achievements that were poo-pooed when he first announced them 2.5 years ago, saying there's a better and smarter way to broker peace in Israel and in the Middle East than the tired old formula being trotted out by the State Department. So this has been a very good week for President Trump, and that's the end of my political weather vane. Stay tuned for parting shots when we come back from this short break. And welcome back now with parting shots. Sam Statland.
Folks, my main concern and my parting shot, and I'll say it early and often, is please vote. I don't care what party you're in. I want you to vote in this election. To vote in this election, when you get your application in the mail, if you haven't already applied, to vote by mail, please send that application in, get your ballot, vote and vote. If you're not going to vote by mail, vote early. If you want to vote at the precincts, vote at the precincts. But please vote. The more people that vote in this country, the better off we are.
Thank you, Sam. Mark Uncapher, your parting shot.
Well, thank you, Sam. I do hope that people vote the right way, but we'll leave that up in the air for a moment. I just want to make the observation that Democrats in the General Assembly haven't waited until after the election to propose tax increase. This past week, there was a proposal to increase the sales tax on liquor by 11%. This is a wrong message. We should be pulling back. We should be making cuts. We should be making adjustments. This isn't even proposing to deal with the deficit. It's intended to, quote, provide for funding for extra programs. So this is a terrible idea. I wish that the General Assembly would stick to the current level of funding.
Thank you, Mark. I'm gonna just make one comment. Today, in today's Bethesda magazine Bethesda Beat, there's an article that Dr. Gales, who is the health executive in charge of Montgomery County, has received death threats and has received threats and has received racial messages. I have a big argument with the county executive and the health executive, but I don't think there's any place for that kind of hate and hate speech. If you have a policy difference, leave it at that and not get personal. For 21 this week, I'm Casey Aiken. Stay tuned each and every week for Montgomery County's hardest hitting political talk show.